Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yeukai Kechidori.
Hi guys, welcome to another very special episode, and with me today on the show is Michael Lewis. Michael is a financial advisor. In fact, Michael recently transitioned from a 30-year plus career in financial services as a Chartered Financial Analyst and an expert in investment products, strategies, and technology to build a private financial planning practice. And today I'm privileged to be hosting Michael because he has a special message from his journey that he has gone on as a family with his family, and what he's now doing to help other people. Michael, thanks for being here with us on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Incredible. Today I want to talk about how you as a business owners can protect yourself or protect your assets in light of everything that is going on in the world today. You may want to begin to think of protecting what you already have. Michael, again, thank you so much for joining us. And to get us started, for those who haven't come across your work and the service that you provide, would you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you very much. So I started my career on Wall Street. I worked for a company that is no longer in existence. And the reality of it is many of some of the largest and most famous investment banks of the 1980s aren't with us anymore. And that's part of the challenge of managing a career, whether you're a corporate person or an entrepreneur. The world is always changing, and adapting to changes is crucial. I've managed to adapt by making sure, I grew up in the business. I started in operations, but I quickly learned technology. When I started to learn technology, I then quickly learned about the business that I'm supporting, because in the end, the value you bring is not so much, especially in technology, it's not so much knowing the technology, but it's knowing how to apply it, right? Solve a problem. In the end, we're all here to solve a problem. And that's where I think most people, especially even budding entrepreneurs, in the end, it's not that they just have this technically elegant solution, but they've identified a problem that they're trying to solve. And I think that's crucial. They're all to be commended for putting themselves out there to do it. So I went into financial services with a technology bent, and I ultimately became an integral part of trading floor, portfolio management, and risk management, and ended up building a very nice career for myself for 30 years. Ultimately, I decided I wanted to prepare for retirement and moved down to North Carolina. But retirement didn't take, and I knew I didn't want to go back into corporate America. I wanted to do something I felt from where I was spiritually and emotionally, that I wanted to do something that would allow me to give back to the communities and the people that I've worked with my entire life. Also, our family was touched with substance abuse. Our son was I don't know if they like using the word addict anymore, but that's the word that he uses. And through our personal journey, I realized that everything that I've learned about finances, project management, business planning, was all the skills that when you're a family going through this crisis, you immediately abandon, and you lose track of your finances, you lose track of almost everything. You're singularly focused on trying to save the life of a loved one, that in the end, in that state, you can't possibly be expected to make sound financial choices. And many people don't, and they tap their 401ks and all their other assets trying to save the life of someone, and in return, unfortunately, and it's tragic, not only is that person not safe, but the family is also financially crippled to the point where they can't possibly be prepared for retirement. Some lose their homes. It's horrible. And what I wanted to do was work with families who were going through what I went through to share what I learned. I did some things right, did a lot of things wrong. I want to make sure that no one goes through what we went through and makes the same mistakes we did. So if you're going to take care of a loved one, and you're going to spend a significant amount of money, you want to make sure that the money is being spent wisely and that everybody who's involved in this journey is being held accountable. And for us, we learned that there's a big difference between supporting somebody in recovery and enabling him through what is really a phony recovery, because as long as you're enabling somebody, in the end, they're not going to do what's needed to be done. And so my wife and I had to change our attitude and approach towards finances, having a conversation with our children, and also recognizing that we can't do everything, and we have to be able to say no. Learning to say no is probably the hardest thing anyone can do. True for entrepreneurs or anybody starting a business for that matter. You know, when you first start a business, you want to say yes to everybody because you believe that no client, no prospect should be turned away.
Yes.
And what you learn as you start building a business is not everybody's really a good, perfect client. Absolutely. And that saying no, while the immediacy of it is, oh my God, I just lost a potential revenue. What you're really doing is you're honing your product, your message, your service, because you're now recognizing that not everybody is good for you, and the amount of work you have to do to retrofit whatever it is you're doing, whatever your service is, to satisfy a less than ideal client. It takes you away from what you're trying to accomplish, but it also tends to cause you to bleed money because you're putting all sorts of effort into building out something that you didn't plan to build out because you spoke to a client that you think may be good. So learning to say no was a lesson that for us, well, I'll say for me probably more than my wife, but for us, was a difficult lesson to learn, but once you learn it, it's invaluable.
Indeed, because you had to learn that there was a time in your story when you had to say no to your son, and he stormed off, and later on he turned around and came back, called you, and appreciated you doing the right thing there.
So that was thank you for bringing that up. That was a very tough story. Because to say no when you're dealing with somebody who's in recovery, and in his case, he was not in active recovery, he's still active using, you have no idea how he's going to react to it. And your fear is you don't want to say anything that might set him off, but by doing so, you're really not helping him become the person that he needs to be in order to overcome this disease. And a similar case can be made on the business side too. You know, if you're not willing to say no, you're not allowing yourself to become the business person that you want to be. What I found when I said no to him, yes, I was very much in fear when I first did it. But his reaction to it days later was, he said, I knew it was the hardest thing you had to do that you've ever done. And I just want you to know you were right to do it. It's my recovery. It's my problem. I have to take responsibility for it. What I think happened in that moment that I said no is my son realized that I achieved a certain level of growth too. And in a way, I think he was really looking for a role model, a parent figure that wasn't a pushover. And I'm not saying that we always were a pushover, but in his mind, I think he was looking for a stronger parent model, certainly, from me. And me saying no made him realize that he is not going to get away with the behaviors that he had. but it also made him look up to me more and saying, okay, he does have the strength of character to take care of himself, and he's not going to be as easily manipulated as he once was. So there's a lot of power in no. Everybody talks about yes, but there's a lot of power in no too.
This is true because in your story, even your daughter, the challenging part was when your daughter said, do I have to be like him for me to get the attention as well? And then you had that realization that things had to be done slightly different.
Oh, that was a kick in the gut. If you think your kids aren't paying attention, and a lot of people, whether they're going through something like substance abuse in the family or divorce, they think that the kids, they're too young. They don't know what's going on. They know what's going on. You cannot hide it from him or from them. And when she came to me and said what she said, it made me realize that I made a promise, not just to my son who was hurting, but I made a promise to my wife to be a good provider to my family. And I ignored all that, trying to solve a singular problem. And when she said, gee, I guess I need to, get the same, I realized that I was neglecting the rest of my family, and I would not do that. There comes a point where you get this inner peace that that whether things are going to be okay or not with him, that either you're going to do the things that you can live with and move on, or you're going to kind of follow him down the rabbit hole. And at that point that she told me, well, I have to become an addict to do it, I realized that I had to make some changes in my behavior and my attitude and my thinking, or we were going to just keep on going. And, it's funny, and this is why I'm very happy to be doing this interview, is you think about business and addiction, and you go, they don't really have a lot in common. And hopefully in some regards they have nothing in common, but the problems and the attitudes and the things that you have to do, one of the challenges for me, for example, was early on I thought it's his problem, only he has to change, right? I just have to keep doing what I'm doing. And if you think about the stubborn businessman who thinks the customers are always wrong, they just have to wake up and go, hey, I'm right, I got the right product. Well, that kind of thinking will lead you to bankruptcy. You have to recognize that in every interaction and everything you do, whether you cause it, if you're a part of it, then you need to react to it and you need to make changes to it. Whether it be in addiction as a parent or as a business owner, every time you talk to somebody and they tell you yes, no, they don't answer the phone, they don't follow up, or they buy, you're getting feedback. And that feedback, it's important to process it and not sit there and go, they don't, I know what I'm doing, they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
The fact is, they may not know everything that they're doing, but you don't know everything that you're doing either. So take the opportunity when you talk to people to really process the feedback. And for that, you have to be open and honest about your stuff. You have to recognize what your limitations are and be willing to hear what may not be the message that you expected. I mean, when I started, my program, no one knew me. And, early on, if I sat there and just took the approach of, I'm smarter than them, they just have to wait for me, I'd still be waiting. Well, what I learned was that my messaging wasn't clear. And people, you go to a room as a financial advisor, and I don't know how to say it, but people are almost immediately on the defensive. They think you're trying to sell them something.
That's right.
And they think that you're only interested in the amount of money they have. And when you go into a room full of therapists or interventionalists or people who run facilities, and you tell them you're a financial advisor, they're going, well, what are you even doing here? Why are you here? And it took me a while to craft a message, and I recognized very early on that while I come with a very special niche for what I want to do, that this wasn't going to happen overnight. I mean, the best piece of advice I got was from a guy who started a facility here in North Carolina. And he goes, the first 2 years, I didn't make a penny. He goes, nobody wanted to do business with me because they wanted to know that I'm committed, that I'm going to be here for the long run. He goes, but once people got to know me and they knew me through my marketing efforts, but they also saw the way I conducted my life and the actions I took, and recognized that A, I'm committed to helping people, and B, I'm not going away. He goes, that's when the business started coming. So for me, I thought I would be, no one's doing it. Everybody's going to flock to me and I was going to have all this business. In fact, it takes time, and I needed to be patient, and I needed to be flexible. I needed to recognize, like we just talked about, when you go into a room and things don't go well, it's easy to say, this guy was drunk or this guy wasn't paying attention. But sometimes you have to take a look and go, maybe I was the one who didn't deliver the most effective message. And, it's trial and error. You go ahead and test it. If it doesn't work, try something else.
Yeah. Michael, one of the things I like about you, really, especially for the listeners who are listening or the people who are watching this, is how you are solution-oriented. Like right at the beginning of this conversation, you mentioned something very important, which is business owners are people that go out and look for solution for a problem, or they're just out there to solve problems. And you exactly do that. Like you identify things you went through, for example, in your personal life, and now you're actively helping people, who have got family members that are recovering, and helping them with their finances at the same time. Now, let's talk about how you can, how business owners can protect their assets or their finances, maybe in a situation like you find yourself in before you venture out to help business owners.
So it's an interesting thread. Entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, they're prepared to put their life on the line, which is, I was going to say easy. That's clearly not the word I want to say. But if you think about what you're putting up when you're 28 or 30 versus what you're putting up when you're 55, a lot different. At 55, you've already had a good chunk of your life to earn assets, start to build wealth. At 28, if you stumble and fall, and this is true for investing as well, people look at the stock market and they get nervous because the market is very volatile. And for clients that are 28 and 30, it's like you can afford to withstand a little bit of noise. You're close to the retirement, that noise becomes real because you don't have as much time to recover. Well, the same is true for, if you're going to put a certain amount of assets into your business, one is you want to protect the assets you put into the business from the assets that you have to live for day to day. And depending on how you set yourself up from a legal perspective, if you're a sole practitioner versus an LLC versus a corporation, if you're not careful, then creditors can come after you because your assets are commingled. So it's very important at the outset that you decide what the proper corporate structure is, and you fill out the paperwork and you get it correctly. I always tell people, whatever decision you make, whatever action you take, it compounds its way for the rest of your life, right? So if you get it right at the beginning, you get all the benefits of getting it right at the beginning. If you get it wrong in the beginning, then depending how long it takes you to figure it out, there's a cost involved in trying to undo what was done incorrectly. So when it comes to assets and putting things on the table, in terms of what you want to seed your business with, it's very important that you keep a clear line of demarcation between what's going into the business and what's going into supporting your own personal life. And we all hear about how important it is to have a business plan, which is true. I mean, I've never seen a real good business take off without a good business plan. But that's the same for your personal life too. You need to spend just as much time on your personal plan to make sure that in the end, 25, 35, whatever many years down the line you go, that you've taken the right actions in order to get where you want to be. Now, addiction always worries me, and when you think about the entrepreneur, especially in this environment of COVID, he's already put his life on the line. He put a lot of things on hold to try to buy a business, to build a business, and now he's sitting in COVID, and he's got some serious issues in terms of what kind of marketing can he do, how can he meet his clients. It's very difficult to conduct business when you can't meet anybody. And we are all told to think positively, whatever the problem is, you want to overcome it, which is true. I think you need to have a positive attitude, but maybe this is more of the mental makeup of a financial advisor. I have to be worried about what happens if you don't make it. I have, again, going back to the yes and no. Sure, I want you to succeed, make a lot of money, and we'll figure out how to invest it. But we also have to be prepared with what happens if you don't make a lot of money. At what point do you look at your business, and this is part of your planning, and go, you know what, it didn't happen for me. How much more money do you want to throw? Do you want to put into that business venture, or do you decide that, okay, maybe this didn't work? Those are hard questions to ask and harder to answer, especially if you're not necessarily going to be. Sorry, I just lost my thread here because something came across the thing. But you don't want to think about the negatives because you're trying so hard to be positive and optimistic. But you need a partner to just balance off that optimism with a little bit of reality. If things are going well, awesome. If things aren't going well, you need to stop the bleeding if that's what's going on, reassess, and drive on. But if you're not careful and you don't have your plans in place, both your business and personal plans, you keep taking money from your personal accounts, personal wealth, whether it be your home and holding equity, or you receive money from an inheritance or what have you. If you turn a blind eye to it, just like an addiction, you can end up throwing oodles of money at a problem that you're just not prepared or may not be solvable at all. So my biggest message here in terms of protecting yourself is establish boundaries. Make sure that from a business perspective, you know what you're shooting for, and you have a way to measure whether or not you're hitting those metrics that you can gauge yourself as being successful. I think most successful businesses, myself included, you have metrics that you say, okay, this year I'm trying to hit this many clients. I'm trying to make this much in sales. I'm trying to make this much in calls. These are all measurable things that you can then turn around and go, yeah, I did what I said I was going to do, or if I didn't, I have a way to measure where I fell short, and I can make decisions. Yeah. Woe to the business, the entrepreneur who goes, success will be when I have $1 million. Well, you can have $1 million by doing it really great, or you can have $1 million by spending $10 million. It's not a measurable, actionable goal. It needs to be well defined. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. A lot of great information there. For those people perhaps who have already made some mistakes in not protecting their finances, without getting into details, are there any suggestions that you can provide them that they can do to get back in line? Of course, other than being very real with where they are at and moving on from there.
So most mistakes that are made are mistakes due to not paying a lot of attention to either what you're signing or what you're, in terms of the documentation required to do what it is you're doing. Let's take a simple case, a will. I have a client that got a divorce but didn't update their will. And
Right.
something happened to him, and the money, instead of going to his children, went to his ex-wife, and fill in the blanks. You can see where that goes, right? And all he really needed to do was take 5 or 10 minutes to call up his lawyer or go online and make the changes to the will. People don't do that. They forget. They always think that I'll get to it whenever. Well, the thing about life is it doesn't work on a schedule. You never know when it's going to happen. So the minute something changes, I think as a financial advisor, this is some of the value that I bring is let's look at the plan and let's make the changes. Now, if you are in a situation where you've done yourself financial harm, for lack of a better word, but your financial situation is not where it should be, there's no magic pill that's going to bring back what happened. You have to make life choices. And the only way you can make life choices is you've got to reset your priorities. What's your priority way out here in the future? What's your priority now? And then life is a trade-off, and you have to figure out how do you rebuild. And look, rebuilding could mean I have to take a second job. I have to work even harder. I have to reduce my expenditures. I got to give up the country club. You know, we talk about stigmas all the time. Financial stigma. You know, the idea that you actually need help managing your finances. Some people think of that as an admission of being an inadequate provider. It's just assumed that we're all smart enough to, manage the day-to-day affairs of our household. I can't tell you how many people I talk with, and they just don't have a clue as to a budget. So if you're feeling that you're not accomplishing everything that you need to accomplish, or you've lost a significant amount, you can do things going forward. It's very rare that you can actually go back and correct them. But recognizing that managing your finances, I like to call it a full contact sport. It's something that you need to ingrain in your lifestyle and do things every day. Right. So if you're in financial straits, yes, there are things that you can do to get rid of unwanted expenses, pay down, those debts, renegotiate your loans. Chapter 11 is always an option. If you feel you need to go into bankruptcy, I'm not recommending these things obviously, but it's important that you know what your options are.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I tell all my clients and prospects is always review your credit score. Credit score is a major component of what you're going to pay for an auto loan, a mortgage. And people don't realize there are a lot of mistakes in their credit score, which costs them money. So review your credit score. It's something that you're expected to do. You're entitled to, I believe it's one free credit pull a year. And you need to review it. And if there are any errors on it, you need to go back to them and get them corrected. But that's a very quick way to start monitoring what's going on. And I can't emphasize monitoring enough. You also talked about, businesses. If you have a partner that's unfortunately maybe has started drinking a little too much or turned to something else, you will notice it by looking not only at him and his changes in his demeanor, his health, as he looked more tired than he used to be, as he less focused. But also, if you look at the finances, look at his credit cards, look at the business accounts he's responsible for, you will see addiction it's a very expensive habit. It's got to come from somewhere. Typically, it could very well come from a business. So you want to make sure that you're reviewing you should be doing it as a normal course of practice, but especially when you see somebody who looks like they've had a changes, you will most likely see evidence of that behavior translate into financial loss. And if you don't watch it and monitor it, it could be a long time before you get to it. And I've worked with some people where it was right in front of them, and they just refused to see it.
Yeah, indeed. Well, as we come towards the end of our time together here, would you direct people where they can learn more from you, or even maybe use some of your services?
Sure. If you have any questions, please come to my website. It's www.tutor, tutor being like an educator. I'm a big fan of education, financial.com. You can also email me at michael@tutorfinancial.com, and you can call me in the United States at phone number 919-629-0178.
Incredible. Well, Michael, it's been an absolute honor having you on the show, and I'm sure business owners who have joined us here today will find this information valuable, and those that want to learn with you, they will be able to reach out to you. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I very much enjoyed it, and I think you did a wonderful job.
Incredible.
Made me feel very comfortable.
That's awesome. There you have it, guys. If you've got any questions, reach out to Michael or reach out to us, and we'll be delighted to support you on your journey as an entrepreneur. You know what? This is not meant to be done alone. So if you're doing it all by yourself, you need to get in a community. That's why we created the group on LinkedIn, where you can ask any question relating to what we've been talking about, or any of the what our guests have been speaking about over the last few weeks. So with that said, I look forward to catching up with you very, very soon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18, or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.